Hi, my name is Calder Christensen, and this is going to be my presentation on lab-grown meat for biotech. What is lab-grown meat, for starters? Lab-grown meat is exactly what it sounds like. It's a meat that's synthesized in a lab. It's also sometimes referred to as cultivated meat. However, it's a little more complicated than just meat that's grown in a lab, obviously. Lab-grown meat is made when scientists take a small cell sample from a living animal and are able to cultivate the sample in order to make it grow using a bioreactor. The meat is grown using plant-based products and typically finishes growing into a full cut of meat in about 2 to 8 weeks, depending on what you're growing. Benefits of lab-grown meat. The benefits of lab-grown meat are very plentiful. In fact, lab-grown meat could improve our society's health as well as the health of our planet. Everyone knows by now that eating large amounts of meat, especially red meat, is not good for you, and it's not good for our planet. Meat that is a product of factory farming is often higher in saturated fats and cholesterol, both of which are greatly linked with heart disease, among other diseases. Along with that, many resources are wasted. One hamburger alone uses up about 660 gallons of water. But with lab-grown meat, scientists are able to manipulate the amounts of fat and cholesterol in the meat and only use the resources necessary to produce the meat. How was this technology developed? This technology has only been around for a few short decades. It's first started becoming popular around 1998. Ever since then, lab-grown meat has been a technology that is greatly on the rise. The technology first started in development when scientists discovered they could use the stem cell tissues of cows and grow new tissues out of them. In early development, they would put cells into a petri dish with amino acids and carbohydrates in order to make them grow. There are much more sophisticated and efficient ways to grow meat now. They often use bioreactors, which keeps the meat at the exact temperature that it needs to be and gives it the exact amount of nutrients. It essentially just makes the perfect conditions for the meat to grow in. Ethics of lab-grown meat. One of the best things about lab-grown meat, in my opinion anyway, is that it is a much more ethical option than regular farm and factory-grown. For starters, lab-grown meat does not require you to kill an animal in order to get a cut of meat, which is good for many reasons. One of those reasons is that often when you get meat off of an animal, you're wasting a lot of the animal and therefore wasting a lot of resources. And also, you just don't have to kill the animal, which if you don't have to kill an animal, then why would you? Lab-grown meat isn't really considered a vegan alternative to farm meat, but is considered a much more ethical option. Along with that, the environmental perks of eating lab-grown meat are quite satisfactory. Of course, with all new scientific discoveries, there are many ethical debates on whether or not lab-grown meat really is ethical on account of it not being natural, because it's grown in a lab, so it's not technically natural. And there's other arguments that state that even though it's not technically from an animal, it's still exploiting animals because it uses their cells. Of course, with those opinions and ethical debates in mind, the general consensus seems to be that eating lab-grown meat is more ethical than eating natural meat. And Many big organizations, such as PETA, even advocate for lab-grown meat as they see it to be a much more ethical way to consume meat. And here's my works cited page and closing slide. And thank you for listening to my presentation.